if this was a crankshaft pulley and that was an oil seal, we might have an issue. You just want to make sure that when you have something like this, if you have a real heavy lip here, that can end up cutting the new seal. And there's one there, but I think we're going to be okay. Rightly so, I keep questioning it, but I think we're going to be okay. Let's do the bearing now. When I did the other side, this seal actually sits just a little bit lower than I want it to. I want that to be flush. If you push this in, because there's room for me to push that bearing in further, you have some leeway on where that's going to sit. But what you don't want is you don't want that bearing sitting out here. And if you push it in too far here, that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to ride there. So we want to keep it in here. So I'm going to push this bearing in, and I'm going to use the seal as my guide for how far in I'm going. I want it to sit flush. Did I just go too far again? Let's see. Nope. Perfect. As far as this goes, see how it has a beveled end here and a flat end here? That beveled end allows this to sit flat. If I flip that over, it doesn't sit properly. And I have one of my tin grill guys to thank for that suggestion. Right? Beveled end faces that way. The other thing too, if you look at this, that sits that way, and that keeps that seal from popping up. If you put the beveled end that way, there's a gap in between there, but that beveled end faces the axle. Okay, and then your dust boot goes on this outer part, and that's gonna go next one. Right, this plastic piece, it's not rubber, it's plastic. It's going to take up for any friction, or that will account for friction, so we don't need to really lubricate any of this. There's lubricant on the inner bearing. Of course, I'm going to pack that with grease. I'll do that in a second, but I just wanted to show you the seal setup, and then that's going to sit in there just like that. There you go. Your outer stub shaft assembly. Someone could have done a better job putting that guy on there, huh? Instead of tweaking it. What we want to do is grease this. I'm just going to use wheel bearing grease. Now, I didn't show this very well before I painted this, and you know, this part really doesn't need to be painted, but I wanted to do that to just help a little bit with rust. But you want to clean this surface up really, really good, because that's what sits into the steering knuckle. That, remember, we were trying to press that out. And I'll probably end up putting anti-seize on this whenever I go back together. That way in the future it won't be so difficult to get off. I spent some time last night cleaning up this hub assembly. Let's mock it up on the bench and talk about it. Axle shaft, spindle, the hub, then you have your inside piece. There is a snap ring that goes there. Top groove in the stub shaft is the only one that I'm needing. This is going to sit up like that. For the rest of that, you have a spring that goes here in this gear, and that's what locks it in here. And then once the hub pushes down, that's this guy right here. So the locking mechanism, what you're doing is those fingers are pushing in this way, right? Unlock it, and those fingers retract. Lock it, and those spring fingers extend. So what you're doing is you're pushing this guy. It's going to sit like this. You're pushing that guy onto the splines inside, and so now I'm locked. And when I let that go, now I freewheel. If you lubricate this, you have all of these mechanisms that have to move freely in and out. And I just think that the grease is going to accumulate dust and dirt, exactly what the manufacturer doesn't want. And so, yeah, I'm torn. inside of me, mechanic says grease everything. That, I believe, this area you don't want to pack with grease. It's going to be hard to turn it if you do in the cold weather. Okay, wheel bearings. All right, something that you guys will definitely want to know how to do is to make a race installer. So I always take the old ones because I don't have any kind of bearing installation tools. You take the old race, we're going to cut this right here, and we're going to use that as our kind of drift. Use some safety glasses here, my friends. Look, I got mine on. My safety readers. That is not the right adapter. That's not cool. That thing might hurt me. Shoot. Probably want to have a guard on your Metabo. That's one. See the other one. Keeping my face and everything out of the way of this thing. These things can be projectiles. That would be why right there. Woo! I'm okay. That could have been bad. That could have been real bad. That's why you want to keep a shield on here, which I took off of this many years ago when I was cutting some concrete, and that thing went for a ride. Good thing I kept my head out of the way. Holy crap. Some dangerous shit right there. Compromising on safety is stupid. So the reason you want to do this is when we press that race in, we want this to be able to collapse so we don't get that stuck. So now we have two pieces we can use. And again, you guys are watching a guy who has specialized in engine performance and electrical system diagnostics for the past 30 years, do brake and suspension work. So if you're laughing at me, you have every right to laugh. Just picture me as a glorified do-it-yourselfer when it comes to this stuff. So inner race, okay, tap gently to get it started. This is hardened steel. You're not going to hurt that race. I only say tap gently just so you don't get it crooked. You want to just start straight, countersunk a little bit, and now we use our race that we cut. You can feel it. You can hear the difference. That's seated now. Seated. Seated. All right, so you see why we split it? Because if I didn't, now this would be stuck, and it's not. Here's your inner race. I gotta go to my brother's shop and pack these wheel bearings, but here's your bearing, and then the seal that we were talking about earlier for the spindle, right in this area that we cleaned up, right? That's where that seal is gonna sit. And why is that not? That's not right. That's not the right seal. That is the correct bearing. That is not the correct seal. We're good here. We're not good here. No. That donor axle I bought is not being my friend. Okay. This just looks fat, like the end of this. So the bearing's going to sit in the same spot. Let me install the race on this side. I'd have been maybe better off not buying a donor axle. I might have been better off buying the parts I needed, although I've seen the kits for spindles and stub shafts and locking hubs, and it's like $2,500. So from that standpoint, me spending $400 on an axle is not so bad to start with. I'm just a little bit disappointed in what I'm seeing here. You can see like this one we started pounding right away. This one, that race drops down. I think we're okay. This is just a little bit longer on the back side. I want to see, compare lengthwise. I'm going to take a tape measure and measure the race out distance. That's in. That's in. You can hear it when it seats. See how much more countersunk that guy is. This one, the seal is going to be good for. This one, it's not. Yeah, those are identical. Okay, good. The worst video ever made. Never produced, maybe even.
Yo, I just saw I missed a call from you like an hour ago.
I'm just making the worst video ever made right now.
Which is what?
I'm trying to film this conversion for my Power Wagon, community guys, and I'm just screwing up left and right here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least it's only one feed, so, you know. I think the screw ups are important and the people need to know like what not to do.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like I'm not the brake and suspension guy, you know? I'm just not.
Yeah, I hear you.
Clearly I'm not. Clearly I'm not.
Yeah.
But the DIY guy, he's gonna do the same thing I'm doing.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. So it'll be valuable. I'll swallow my pride and
I think it says something though to be able to put something out there that, you know.
yeah.
But
Yeah. All right. Well, you're on film. This will make it. This will make the cut because I was just sanding a part where I couldn't get the bearing on. This is my son Caleb, my editor, who we're talking to right now, guys. Yeah. So just a couple little hammer marks I missed. So when you're taking these off, right? That little bit of a booger right there was keeping me from. That's keeping me from getting the bearing on. Hit in here all you want. Don't hit up in here. There we go. Okay. No big deal there. But that's what's going on. I think that's both spindles are like that. Yeah, look at my dings right there. What not to do? Hit in here. Sure. Hit right here. No. Hit up here. No. So it's going to go bearing. Should work fine. The bearing sits in the proper position. You can see the length here, from here down, from here down is the same. The difference is in the design of the hub itself from here to here. 7 3/4 to that top ridge. 7 3/4. So they are exactly the same as far as that goes, which is good. Again, it's just a seal area, so I need to get a different seal for this guy, and that's why the wear marks looked a little bit different too on where that seal sat. So you guys are gonna run into this stuff too, I'm sure. You talk about a pieced together truck. Yeah. Mine is definitely going to be it. 91 axle, 78 Power Wagon, 91 CAD axle, 91 conversion lockout hubs with a different hub. Same bearings, different seals. Got that? I got to get a seal. Waiting for my stub shafts to come from my friend Chris. I'm going to clean that left hub up like I have the right one. I'm going to paint it too. We can put the front races in too. I showed you how to do the back ones. Let's do the front ones. Nope, I don't want to put that one in yet because I want to clean this hub face up. I'll show you that one. I'll put that one in later because I want to take a wire brush, clean all this, and I don't want to be doing that against the new race. So that one's gonna wait. I'll do this one. This is one where having something, you know, a bearing install type tool would be really helpful, but this is going to help me. And I don't have a socket that's big enough. I don't think. Maybe I do. Oh yeah, sweet. This is the socket that I bought for my full-time four-wheel drive axle nut. Beat on my old extension instead. I don't care about this little 3-inch extension. I have many of them. Oh, she is. What if the camera picked that up? For you rookies out there, you got a rookie leading you here, but I was just looking at the gap here. That's how I knew it wasn't in all the way. Okay, that's good now. How'd you like that? Your bearing install tools. Use a cage for your cutoff tool. That thing went flying. Why did I take it off? Well, I was cutting into some brick years ago, and I needed the depth of the blade, and so I took it off. And yeah, that could have hurt me. So just be careful, guys, please. All right, we're all weekend warriors when it comes to this stuff. All right, so we're gonna pack this full of grease in between, in this section and here. We'll take our bearings, we'll pack those. For you guys that don't have a bearing packer, you can actually put grease in the palm of your hand, and a little bit at a time. You go like this until it squeezes out here, then you turn it, do the same thing till it squeezes out. It just takes forever. It can be done at home. My brother's got a bearing packer at his shop. I'm gonna use his to pack the bearings when we put this back on. Let's go pack some bearings. I got my helpers with me. You guys gonna help me today? Huh? You gonna help? What about you? You gonna help me? Okay, let's go. Let's go find out where we get the right grease seal too, huh? All right, you guys gotta stay right here. I'll be right back, okay? Okay? You stay here. You stay here. I'll be right back. That's where I get all my parts. Let's see who's here. I don't want to be filmed today.
John wants his face covered up.
What's that?
He only has a face for radio, John.
So while we're waiting, no BS here. This company, Cozell Auto Parts, Bethel Park, PA.
No, not
they've been able to help me with 90% of everything I need for this mutt of a Power Wagon that I've been working on. This is 78/79/80/72. You know, this is the place right here. Napa is the company that supplies them, but Cozell Auto Parts. Props to these guys, man. Bruce is the man. He's the one that helped me out with this Power Wagon. You guys need to have someone like these two, Bruce and Bill. Napa, the Napa plug. You think Napa will sponsor my video? I guess I was in the store too long. Which one of you did that? Huh? Which one of you did that? Why would you eat the box? You ate my car seat too. Penny, are you kidding me? I can't believe you did that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Did you do that? Did you do that? All right, I left off talking about this other hub and that I needed to get a different seal for it. Yeah, it doesn't exist. I have no idea what this is out of. The distance on this is about 85 millimeters. Actually wrote it down. This this seal, the one, you know, when I ordered all these parts, I ordered everything from a 91 Dodge W250. Everything was perfect. Bearings, seals, everything for this one. Bearings fit this one, the oddball one that I can't find a seal for, right? This 85 millimeter wide seal, where this one is 82.58. This is maybe 84.5 millimeter, 2.5 inch inside, 2.5 inch inside, 82.58. Cannot match that seal up anywhere, nowhere, with it being right thickness of that like 0.375 or 9.53 millimeter thickness, 2.7 or 2.5 inside, which would be 63.5 millimeter, and then the bore size outside area 82.58 on this guy, but this guy's 84.5 to 85 millimeter. Can't find it anywhere. I have no idea what this hub's off of. Or maybe this was worn and somebody found a seal to fit it because of some damage that happened to this at some point in time. So I either A, reuse this seal, okay, which I don't want to do because I have a worn spindle, right, from where that seal was riding. There's some grooves in there, and when I put this on in the top area, there's kind of some side to side play there. If it sits down in there further, like in there, not so bad. Where do I get the seal? Can I reuse it? Yes, I can. Can I just put this back together the way it is? Probably. I could probably get away with it, but I don't want to do this job twice, because you got to change studs when you're changing the assembly, and really you got to pound them out and replace them, which isn't a big deal. But I have my friend who sent me these axles. Chris, thank you so much for getting me the outer stub shafts that are in much better shape than mine. You see the area where the spindle bearing was riding. The only difference with the ones Chris sent me is the groove. So the grooves on this one compared to this one, that third one, I don't use it anyway. The only groove that I'm using on my assembly is the very outer one. So this is going to work perfectly. Same splines, I think it's 19 was the number. And same length, everything else is good. Right there is my replacement. Chris, thank you. And I have another one, he sent me both sides. Right, can't hurt to have an extra. And I'm having Chris send me, I'm getting 2 hubs off him too. So we're getting 2 more hubs coming and 2 more spindles coming. So I'll be replacing this spindle that's got some wear on it along with the hub. We'll compare what we have from him when they come. I think in the meantime, putting that on hold, I'm gonna press some ball joints into this spindle, steering knuckle. So let's do that while we're waiting for the other parts. I'll just show you these cleaned up now. Chris, you the man. These are really nice. A little bit of pitting in this one right here, but not bad at all. No grooves whatsoever. These are in great shape. Even the splines on this end are in much better shape than the one that I had. Little bit of wear marks on that one in the center. We'll have to look at that closer. Let's look at the ones I had. See the areas where the spindle bearings ride. This one's shot, and this one's pitted a little bit. It's not too bad either, but I just noticed I might be using this one. Like, look at this, the grooves. Definitely not using this one. This might be in better shape where my finger is right here riding than the one that Chris gave me. You can see some wear. I compare the middle teeth here to these ones, or grooves. We got some wear marks in that one for sure. So we'll have to see which one we're using. It's probably okay, but I might end up using one of mine. This one's mine. That'll be the piece that goes over top of that. Yep. That's about the same. Can't leave the grease seal there because the axle sits here and the U-joint sits there, and it would knock that seal off. So I guess on occasion you can pop that out, pop the fitting back in, grease the ball joint. Not really any other way to do that. This sleeve goes into the axle itself, and yeah, that's ready to go. This little thin wall piece, that was clutch for this job in the way the steering knuckle is designed, because these were too fat. Harbor Freight. Gotta be the first time I ever plugged a Harbor Freight tool. Worst part of this whole thing is I just redid all of this. You guys that are doing this job, you see how easy that came loose. It's only 100 foot-pounds on this nut, and that's because I just had it off. This is all new. I just redid all of this. So I'm gonna have a nice hub assembly rotor, wheel bearings for someone. And this is an oddball. It's like a 12.3/8. Won't have to deal with these anymore. I'm happy about that. So I'm unbolting this caliper bracket while it's here because this one's in better shape than the donor vehicle. When I did this last time, I just smacked on the rotor to pop the hub assembly out, and I don't want to do that this time because this is a brand new rotor. So I also, the gasket that went around there, I believe I used RTV on it. So that's going to be held pretty tight right now. But I don't want to mess this rotor up. It's brandy new. All right, inside grease seal. I'm going to pound it this way from the back side. New seal. Yeah, so this is not coming out. I took the grease fitting out, as you guys can see here, and I did not have this issue going in, but I certainly am coming out. I should not have to beat on this to get this out. I shouldn't. But I did. Yeah, that is not coming out. Just gonna wind it out with an impact. Cotter pin's soft. There you go. Sometimes it's not worth fighting the cotter pin. Most of it's still intact in the ball joint. Any small pieces you definitely want to pick up. They'll end up in your tire. There's some differences in these brackets. The hold down bolts, they don't fit. You'd have to hog those out, but they're essentially the same bracket. There's really no other difference. But this axle that this all came off of was off a 79 W200 from what I was told, and the donor axle that I'm taking these from was a 91 W250 or W200. So just the bolt holes are different. I have my friend who's sending me the new hubs and spindles. He's also giving me the caliper brackets, so I'm gonna hold off on that until I get those to see. The reason I didn't want to use these ones is just because of the wear that's in there. You know, they could be in better shape. Probably wouldn't be a problem if I, you know, clean those up a bit, but we'll see what my other ones look like before I put those on. But they are different. The holes are different. Just the bolts themselves, thickness of the bolt. You could hog this out if you wanted to. I have another bracket coming. I wanted to use these because you see how much cleaner these are. I just painted them, you know, clean that up, take the paint off that part, but you can see just how much better that is. That's why I wanted to use these ones. These are brand new U-joints. I'm being careful about taking them back out. Big difference in length of that. Looks like same diameter, so we'd be winning there. I like to get one side in and then move it over so your needle bearings inside are like halfway on the one side, and then you have, you know, the shaft sticking out so you don't accidentally knock a needle bearing off and then have it trapped inside. So that way when I start it, I know that I'm already set up properly with all the needle bearings. They're around the shaft of it, and then we're going to be fine pressing that in the rest of the way. And this ball joint press has really an advantage. You can just use the vise and use sockets too. The reason that pressed in so easy is I cleaned those up really well. That's one. Let's go put it in the truck. All right, so to my Power Wagon guys, that's my son cutting grass. Brand new rotor, brand new wheel bearings, inner seal that's inside there. Stub shaft, spindle. Of course, you want to change the ball joints doing this job. Spindle, backing plates, caliper bracket. Both sides are going to be available. And you guys let me know if you're interested in them. You know, rather than spending the money on a new rotor and new bearings, and you know, maybe you needed a press to do that. I pressed those at my brother's shop. So rather than spending the money on that, you can have them already done. Just hit me up, send me a private message, and we'll make a deal and I'll get these out to you. One of the questions we had as we were going, is this tie rod going to be the same? And it is the same length. So I'm going to be using that 91 tie rod. And I'm putting a different steering stabilizer on this using the single one. I think the double one is a little excessive. I had some memory steer, and unless I find some frozen ball joints on this side, I'm thinking that was contributing, just the setup of it. So I'm taking that off, putting a single one on it. Curious to hear you guys' thoughts on that. But I was expecting to find some frozen ball joints when I did this side. Right, those are new. Upper and lower ball joint. This side, I don't know, we'll find out. I'm about to do it. Yeah, so I'm not sure where we left off last, but I got some new hubs coming, like I said. And I didn't like this one spindle. I definitely can use that, but I got 2 new spindles coming and 2 hubs off of an 86 Ram Charger, and I had my friend Chris measure the distance here to here, and it's the same as this one, which we thought was damaged, right? So I ordered some seals from the 86 Ram Charger W250, and wouldn't you figure, that is the seal that I needed. So my measurement of 84.5 to 85 millimeters was off. This is like 83.99 something. Man, if that doesn't tell you the need for a caliper when it comes to doing stuff like this, I don't know what does. But I could probably use this hub. The other one is a different seal, but I have that one too. Anyway, I have extras now, but yeah. So, in that aside, putting that aside, I decided this part in particular for the locking hub, I did mention this brass ring in here acting as a lubricant too, but I'm gonna lubricate this just using some wheel bearing grease. Alrighty, got me my parts in. And they're in decent shape. Thank you, Chris. Just want to show you guys some differences in these hubs, because I know some of you are going to be going through the same thing as me, and you're going to have to piece together multiple trucks to get what you want. And let me just show you the differences in 3 of the hubs. Remember, mine had 2 different ones on it from my 91 donor, and races, bearings are the same, seals were different. I think the takeaway here is you can use any of them, but again, the distances and where the seal's going to ride on the spindle year to year is going to change, so you have some leeway in the spindle. And then the other thing too is again, this sits about 1/4 of an inch lower. Let me think about that though. Once I bolt that up or to the truck, yeah, it's the spindle that it's resting on. So this is going to sit about 1/4 of an inch outward with that design. Just thinking about that, that's interesting, because my front axle on my truck, when I measured it, it was like about that much off, but those are different assemblies, so I don't know, you could use that to mess around with your stance on your truck, I guess. I'm not going to do that though. Alright, I think I showed this already, but in case I need to show it again, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this spindle bearing. Down inside of here, you see the area where I nicked up where that race is going to sit. So I'm just going to take my Dremel and just kind of level those off just a little bit, just a little grinding end on my Dremel. What that's gonna do is just make sure that that race sits flush where it's supposed to and not be raised up on one side. See the non-locking hub mechanism, locking hub. Well, I think we're gonna hold off on putting this on the truck just yet, because this is ridiculous. You know, it's gonna be 80 degrees on Sunday. So today is Tuesday, it's snowing. It's gonna be 80 degrees on Sunday. Welcome to Pittsburgh weather in April. About the only snow she'll ever see. That's definitely the way to go. Doing it with the lug nuts, man, it just like whew, messes those lug nuts up. These are from my steel rims, extra ones, but man, pulls the threads. It's not ideal. This is ideal. Yep, this is 3 days later. It's I don't know, 65 degrees, warm and sunny. Let's get this thing back together. What was done? So for you guys that are doing this project, just a rehash. This axle shaft, the inner part we are reusing. It is only the outer part we changed. The U-joint is the same. We changed, so the outer stub shaft, the steering knuckle. I have learned that the brackets for the 91, the brackets for my 79 axle, this was a 79 axle that was in here, and the brackets for an 80, oh, I didn't get those. I was gonna say an 86 Ram Charger are all the same. What was different was the size of the bolts. So the brackets are the same, the bolt holes are different. So I would think they are interchangeable. At least the smaller bracket with the smaller bolts, you could hog those out and use the bigger bolts, but you wouldn't want to go the other way around. So pay attention to brackets. They were the same. Again, bolt sizes were different. Using new upper and lower ball joints. And then I used the tie rod off of my 91 donor axle. We did never answer whether or not the threads were different. I was told the threads for the tie rod ends are different on the 91 tie rod compared to the 79. I'm not totally sure about that. Things to consider: thread size. I know the taper is the same. When I compared the tie rods, the taper was the same, and that was my concern and why I went with the 91 tie rod ends and the 91 tie rod. Is I was a little bit worried about maybe the taper being different. It does not look like that is the case. The other thing too is we've learned that depending on the model and what it came out of, you can have 1, 2, or 3 grooves in the outer stub shaft, and it's going to depend on what your setup was, whether or not it had locking hubs, and the year of it too, I think, changes. Mine actually had 3, and the ones on the 91 donor had 3. This one was off of an 86 because I had some damage to my spindle bearing area, and so I ordered some more stub shafts, and these ones only have 2, but I'm only using the outer snap ring for mine. Let's look at the other side. Oh, calipers are the same for all of them. Yeah, so same thing on this side. The only difference really is just the steering arm, and that steering arm was the same. So there's your There's your setup. I heard from a lot of you that this wheel bearing design is able to handle the wider rims, bigger tires better than the full-time design. Look where your inner bearing is. And it's really, and the inner and outer bearing are all contained in this section. And I can see why that these would be a weak link in comparison, just because of their location. As opposed to this guy, yeah, look where that's sitting inside the rotor. And again, your outer bearings way out here, kind of even with the front face of this hub, where this guy's going to be countersunk inside. Let's see, where's that going to sit? So in relation, the outer bearing is like where my finger is. So you're talking like 3 inches difference, and they're spaced apart a little bit more. So I guess I can see it from a design standpoint why this would be a stronger wheel bearing assembly. Now I may be wrong, this is what I'm hearing, and I'm seeing that. I know offsets, you want the weight of the rim to be centered over a hub wheel bearing assembly. When you get those real big offset rims that the tires stick way out here, that puts all that weight out here and then puts kind of a side pressure on the wheel bearing. So when at all possible, you want to bring that rim in and have your weight not so far out this way. And so that's the idea there. You guys that run those big offsets, you know about it. You're having wheel bearing failures all the time, and that's a big part of it. So yeah, and you can see the difference too, and why we need the longer stub shaft on the two designs. Just putting them side by side, right? You see just how much different that those are, and why the full-time axle has that real short stub shaft. All right, let's get this stuff on the truck. Remember the beveled end? Which way it faces? Right? Faces beveled end this way. Let's get you a torque spec on this. Well, I'm glad I looked, because 25 to 35 foot-pounds on the Dana 44 is what it is. It's like 60 for the Dana 60. So I would have definitely over-tightened these. I tend to, even though I've been a mechanic for 30 years, I tend to Godzilla things at times. So 30 foot-pounds we're going with, okay? 25 to 35 is a spec. That's crazy, because you think about all the weight that's here, and you're like, no way, that's not, that's not tight enough. I would definitely tighten them more than that if I didn't know. That is just not a lot of torque. I wonder if it would have mattered if I put this like up top or whatever. I don't think it matters at all. But I greased these at my brother's shop, along with the tab. That one's first. Okay, let's talk about this procedure. And I'm a drivability guy, electronics. And a lot of you guys have a ton of experience with this, and I do not. So when you don't have a lot of experience by hand in setting up wheel bearings, you definitely want to go by torque specs and procedures. So that's what I'm gonna do. And you guys can make fun of me if you want to, that's fine. But until you do enough of these, then you don't really get a feel for it. And I'm gonna go by spec just to be smart for myself, and then for the rest of you guys that are in the same boat as me, that maybe this is the first time you're doing something like this. So you wanna make sure you do it right. All right, so let me just read it to you. So for the Dana 44, on all models, tighten inner lock nut to 50 foot-pounds. Then they want you to loosen the lock nut, retighten to 30 to 40 foot-pounds while rotating the hub, and then back it off 135 to 150 degrees. Install lock ring, install outer lock nut, tighten to 50 foot-pounds. On Dana 60 is 65 foot-pounds on the 60. And then they have you check end play. So that's 50 foot-pounds first. This is gonna be what I'm gonna rotate it, and then loosen it, then retighten 30 to 40 while rotating, and then back it off 135 to 150 degrees. Follow that? Let's see if we can do it. All right, 50 foot-pounds first. Okay, 50 foot-pounds. Then we want to back it off. Now they want me to go 30 foot-pounds. There's 30 foot-pounds. Okay, let me make sure doing this right. Loosen lock nut, retighten 30 to 40 foot-pounds while rotating. I was doing that. I'm being a little anal here, but let's do that again. Let's go 35. Okay. Back off nut 135 to 150 degrees. Okay, that's kind of tough to do. It's like, picture there's 180 top to bottom, 90 here, so in between 90 and 180, right, that'd be 135. That's convenient. 180 top to bottom, 90, 135. I mean, that's just basically like almost hand tight, just like we do any other tapered roller bearing, like for rear brakes when we used to do those back in the day. I mean, you'd put the nut on, you tighten it down, spin it, back it off, and then you'd literally tighten it hand tight, as tight as you could with your hand, and that was always good. I wonder what this is. Yeah, look at that. I'm like able to hand tighten that. So it was actually looser than hand tight. Why don't they just say that in the procedure? You know, lock it down, tighten it up, spin it, back it off, tighten it hand tight. Like, I'm comfortable, like I'm going a little bit tighter than what the spec is, going hand tight on that bearing. Hand tight. Pretty crazy. All right, then the lock nut. So yeah, you can definitely laugh at me, but that was a good lesson, just to see where we ended up. Was I beyond hand tight? I was not. It was looser than hand tight. It says the end play should be 0.001 to 0.010, so 1 to 10 thousandths of an inch, or 3 to 25 millimeter after adjustment. But the lock nut should be 50 foot-pounds. feel some end play here. Yeah, a little bit there. Hand tight. Yeah, not really. Hand tight it is. I'm comfortable with hand tight. Okay, so we won't be torquing the other side. We'll just tighten it down like we do any other one. Spin it back and forth, loosen it. Maybe tighten it down again, loosen it, hand tight, right? That's the plan. That is the plan. Okay, locking. We got a tackle washer. All right, so there's one more factor here in the tightness of this, is that little notch for this. You know, where you fall with this guy, you know, if you're in between a hole, do you loosen it? Do you tighten it? I mean, I have leeway to loosen it just a little bit because I'm tighter than what spec is right now. Going hand tight, I'm tighter than specs, which is kind of crazy to say. Just need to be able to see where that notch is. So I'm off just a little bit. I'm like right on the hole, so I'm just gonna tighten it just a smidge more, and I'll be exactly lined up. And I should be able to just do that by hand. So there's a factor there with this. I only need to go a smidge. Do we want to go looser or tighter? You know, we'll see how this feels. Maybe I want to go back a little bit. Okay, now that's good. That's good, I like it. You want to make sure, see if I can point it out to you. I'll try. So, see the little tab right here where my pocket screwdriver is. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. All right, so I could loosen it some, but I'm comfortable with that. Okay? So I was a little bit off putting that back on, but you want to make sure that that is in there. You don't want that sitting in between and that thing sitting cockeyed, and then you lock it down and that inside nut has the ability to walk. Then what keeps it from walking is that tab and then the groove that's in the spindle. Okay, lock nut, 50 foot-pounds. Let's see what that feels like with my regular ratchet. Just gauging. Okay, that's pretty decently tight. 50 foot-pounds on that. Cool. Well, let's get the hub back together. Alright, well, we answered that question as I'm having issues with my tie rod and adjusting it. The 79 tie rod end and the 91 are different. Check out the threads, right? The thread pitch coarseness is different. The tapers, looks like the taper's the same. But either way, they're not interchangeable. Tie rods are not interchangeable between the 91 and 79.